I, 26M, was with my ex, 25F, for 2 solid years. We shared an apartment, talked about marriage, and were literally looking at houses. Then, out of nowhere, she hits me with the "I love you, but I'm not ready for something this serious" speech. She said she felt suffocated and needed to find herself. I didn't argue. I didn't beg. I just said, "I understand," and moved my stuff out that weekend. I went full ghost mode, focused on my job as an analyst, hit the gym, and stayed off social media. About 6 weeks later, I started seeing someone else. It wasn't anything heavy, just grabbing dinner and hanging out. Well, word travels fast in our mutual friend group. My ex found out and lost her mind. She called me at midnight, crying and screaming, "How could you move on so fast? I thought you'd wait for me to be ready." I told her straight up that I'm not a library book she can just put on hold. She broke up with me to find herself, and I found someone who actually wanted to be with me. But then things got weird. It turns out her finding herself phase wasn't going so well financially. She was still living in the luxury apartment we had signed for, and she realized she couldn't afford the $3,200 rent on her own. She actually expected me to keep paying my half of the rent for an apartment I didn't live in just because she wasn't ready to be an adult yet. When I told her I had already removed myself from the lease and wasn't paying a cent more, she turned vicious. She started a smear campaign, telling all our friends I was financially abusive and that I had cheated on her. She even threatened to call my boss and make up lies about my business expenses to get me fired if I didn't support her through this transition. That's when I stopped being the nice guy. I live in a one-party consent state, so I recorded our final meeting where she literally tried to blackmail me into paying her rent. I took that recording and the lease agreement to a lawyer. While we were prepping a cease and desist, I found a shared cloud drive she'd forgotten to log out of. Inside were emails to some travel influencer guy she'd met on a trip months ago. She was planning to dump me and move to Miami to be with him, but she wanted to stay in our apartment on my dime until her transition was ready. She wasn't confused. She was a predator. I sent those emails to our mutual friends. The abusive narrative she built died instantly. But she still wouldn't leave the apartment. She told the landlord she had squatter's rights and refused to move. So, I worked with the landlord to fast-track an eviction. In court, she tried to play the victim, claiming she was broke and indigent to get her court fees waived. The huge twist? I found a certified letter in our old mail. Her estranged grandfather had passed away months ago, leaving her an $80,000 inheritance.
She knew about this the whole time.
She was lying to the court about being broke while sitting on 80 grand, all while trying to drain my bank account for rent. I handed that proof of her inheritance and her perjury straight to the judge. The judge was livid. She granted the eviction immediately. I watched from the sidewalk as the sheriff drilled the locks and the movers piled her suitcases on the curb. While she was sitting there on the sidewalk, her influencer guy called her on speakerphone just to tell her he'd seen the leaked emails and was blocking her. She lost the guy, the apartment, her reputation, and a massive chunk of that inheritance went toward my legal fees and the back rent she owed. She wanted to find herself, and she ended up finding a permanent record and a very lonely curb. I'm still with a new girl, and life has never been better. If you want more stories about entitled exes getting exactly what they deserve, hit that subscribe button. Unlike my ex, I'm actually ready for something serious.